All right. And we want to shout out a great thank you to our sponsor, the Foundation for Dane County Parks. The foundation raises funds to support all of the Dane County parks. Whoops. By promoting volunteerism, education, and interpretation, community involvement. I'd like to introduce Tom Thorson, the foundation's executive vice president, to speak for a minute and share more about the foundation's mission.
Well, thank you so much, Jolene. Yes, I'm Tom Thorson. I'm the executive vice president of the foundation. I'm also a member of the Dane County Parks Commission, going on almost 18 years now. And the thing I'd like to say about the foundation, it's one of the great partners we have. When you think about Dane County, I mean, we're so blessed with the resources we have here, but we're also so blessed with just wonderful park staff. We're wonderful. You look at all of the committed people who work in the county, and really important, we have such great volunteers. And that's one of the reasons why the foundation was started. How can we support all of these wonderful people who help our parks? And so an endowment was started in 2014. And this endowment we want to build so that we can really focus on three major areas. We really want to help fund our interpretive. We want to help fund our education, and we really want to help our volunteers, and friends groups, which all of you are. And so far we've been able to raise over $800,000 and give out $32,000 in grants, including helping like with this training. And it's really important because we want to help you because you do so much for us. Volunteers are so important, and the more we can do to help you in ways, those partnerships go a long way. The foundation is also helping build partners with, like with the Dean Health SSM, we've got Healthy Parks, Healthy You. We're working with American Family to help with, try to make sure that we can have junior naturalists. So there's a lot of programs that the foundation wants to assist with partner groups, including the parks. So your support is so appreciated for all the volunteer work that you do. Hopefully today's training session on media will be helpful to you, and social media in particular. I'd like to learn a lot. I'd like to stay on some more, but I actually have another board meeting that started at 5. So I just want to say welcome. Thank you for all you do. We want to continue to grow the foundation so that we can help you with the grants that we give out. So thanks again.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you to the foundation for sponsoring this as well. All right, it's delayed, and there it goes twice. I think I'd figure out Zoom a year and a half into the pandemic or longer. So I'm Jolene Stinson. I'm the Interim Parks Director. Today's presentation will be led by a few members of the Dane County Land and Water Resource Department team. So Lael Pasquale, the Lucier Family Heritage Center Manager, and Susan Sanford, the Strategic Engagement Coordinator, are co-presenting with me this evening. Today's session is the first of a larger training series, so be sure to check out the rest of the options and sign up for the ones that interest you. You certainly don't have to do them all. You can pick and choose whatever relates best to your group or your volunteer experience. We will continue to monitor COVID and may switch future trainings to virtual as well, but we'll decide on a case-by-case basis as we get closer to the actual dates. The next one, January 25th, certainly will be virtual. This training series will culminate with the return of the Volunteer Appreciation Picnic. We at Dane County Parks are really looking forward to celebrating your accomplishments with you again this year. So please put that date on your calendar, save the date, and we'll share some more information this spring as we get a little bit closer. We have created a one-stop shop webpage for our friends groups. If you haven't looked at it yet, we all encourage you to, and we'll continue to add more resources and details as things come up. Note this red exclamation point in the upper right-hand corner. If you see that image during the presentation, it means that topic that we're discussing has more information on the resource page. And with this, I'm going to pass the presentation over to Lael to talk about event planning from start to finish.
Thanks, Jolene. Thanks everyone for coming out today. think I have control of the screen. I'm just testing it. I've never taken control of someone's presentation, so this is new for me too. So I am super excited to be here today and talk about event planning. The Lucier Family Heritage Center, just for anyone that's not familiar with it, is a Dane County Parks facility, and it's where we house all of our education and outreach efforts for all of Dane County parks. Anything that we would be planning, it kind of is housed under there, even if it isn't necessarily happening at the Heritage Center. Most of the staff that work out of there are education outreach team. And then alongside Susan Sanford, who will be talking more about social media and marketing with us, we do a lot of our outreach programs. So with that, we plan a lot of our larger events. You may have heard of some of them, or we may have worked with your friends group or organization. So we have, planned the Parks and Trails Unite Festival, Barks for Parks. Those are our really large programs, but then we have several smaller events that we put on at the Heritage Center or assist our friends groups with planning their events at different parks. So just a few examples. This summer we put on like movies in the park, presentations, a variety of different youth programs and adult programs. Usually we put on a winter seminar series. So there's a whole variety of different programs that happen there. And then formerly, I oversaw education and interpretation down for Miami-Dade Parks in Florida. So I'd be happy to answer questions on event planning after the presentation. But if you have specific questions, I'd encourage you to just email me as well, as we may not have time to go through it all. So I'm going to take you through what I like to think of as the general overview of event planning, because they can get really detailed and we only have a short amount of time together tonight. And Jolene and Susan have a lot they're going to cover as well. So the first step with planning your event is thinking about what you'd like the goal or objective of your event to be. So are you doing this event as a fundraiser? Are you raising awareness for your park or program or friends group? Are you doing this more for like a community building or stewardship activity? What's really the focus of your event going to be? Are you bringing in outside entities for a major draw? Are you focusing on your community? What kind of are the main areas you'd like to highlight? So once you kind of develop your goal for your event, then you can really dive into the event plan. So well, you have your goal or your thought, and then you take it to your team, or you start working with different people in your organization or at your park and talk about what you're going to have as your team's roles and responsibilities. Who's going to take on what? And I see this as a first step in your planning. I think that a lot of groups sometimes miss this step and then things get lost along the way. So it's really valuable to make sure that right away you're initially going through who's taking the lead for this event. Even if it maybe was your idea, maybe you don't have the capacity or time to take that role on. So talking about who's going to be your main coordinator, making sure that you lay out who's going to help with your location, different tasks that you might have, volunteer recruitment, marketing, planning the different activities at your event. Your event could be really small. It could be, 5 to 10 people, or maybe a 25-person event, or it could be very large, up to 500 or 1,000 people. So that's going to really vary in who's helping you kind of on your team. But once you have that kind of going through and making sure you have all of that laid out, then your next step would be to come up with your calendar for planning. So setting up different steps and making sure to set up your calendars with your team for check-ins and meetings. So any of the lead volunteers that will be working with you on your project, or if you have to submit certain requests like your special event permit, or having deadlines for booking different amenities like a tent, or if you needed a light for your event, things like that. So making sure that you have those different deadlines laid out, and then also making sure you put your planning meetings together and having everyone agree on the different dates so that you're not frantically trying to collect everyone together and get together last minute again. So this is an event sheet that I like to use. It's very simple. If you would like a copy of it, you'll get this presentation, and I'd be happy to email it to you. It's really straightforward and just kind of helps with some initial planning. So kind of talking about, what's your event, where's the location, who's the main contact for that location. Maybe it's not maybe it's, Dane County Parks, maybe it's the ranger, maybe it's someone on your team. So kind of going through that. When's the event going to be? What is the time of the event? How many people are you expecting? And then your task list and different expenses that you might have. And then going through your kind of setup plan, who's going to do the setup and cleanup, which are major pieces of your event as well. And then at the bottom, there's just a little section for your budget or overall cost to your event. So we've gone through kind of who you have working on your team, what your goal is. Now, what's the type of your event? And this could change. These events that we have going on right now tonight is a perfect example. We had planned for these to be in person, but we had to switch to virtual. So, this kind of the last couple of years have really shown us that we need to be flexible, and that's just fine. So always thinking about, can your event become virtual? And if not, do you have a backup date? So that's something I always like to keep in mind now, which I maybe went of a couple of years ago. What style of an event are you having? Is this part of a series? Is this a recurring annual event or something you'd like to make annual? And that might help you pick a date. And then is this a one-time event? Is just a one-off celebration or just kind of a trial run of something? So those are all different types. And then picking your target audience. This could be, all of the different groups listed below, but it could really vary. So are you expecting families to come out? That's going to affect your time that you're picking for your event, making sure that it's a time frame that families, especially with young children, would be able to attend. Is this a youth or school group? If so, then maybe you'd want to choose a date and time during the week on a school day, making sure to check your school's calendars so it's not a school day off or an in-service. Is this an adult-focused event, or are you really focusing this event solely on fundraising and a donor focus? So those are pretty big differences. So you'd want to select that next. Once you know that, you would start to narrow down your size. So although we all want our events to be big and successful, it's really key that you can get a size together that you can manage. So even I was recently working on planning an event, and I was talking to our partners and said, this is what I can handle with the folks that I have that can come out and volunteer for this event. But if you can handle more, I'm willing for it to get larger. But I think it's important to have that transparency and be very clear. Like, this is what I'm able to do and what we can help provide. But if we want it to be larger, then we need, more volunteers. We need more help from other organizations. And can our site handle that capacity? Do we have enough parking? Do we have enough staff or volunteers to assist us with parking? Do we have a plan in place for overflow parking if we have more people come than we're able to handle, or are we spacing out our events? And that'll really help with your marketing later that Susan will go over. So once you kind of decide on this is our max capacity, that'll help kind of narrow your targeting for your messaging. And then you're really thinking about what is it with your event? You have your goal, but how can you draw in your attendees? So what's getting them to come out to their event? What's in it for them? So even though we all want everyone to just come and enjoy our parks or enjoy our programs, you really need to think about, is there something that's in it for someone else? So if they're paying $5 or $10 to come to a program because you would like them to donate or buy a ticket, then what are they getting out of it? Is there a benefit? And how are you going to kind of draw them in when there's so many other wonderful events going on as well? So really focusing in on that, and then helping to really get creative in thinking about, okay, so if we're having family-friendly event, then what age group, or we have multiple age groups, making sure you have a little bit of something for everyone. Is it a long event? Do you need to have food at the event? And that kind of snowballs into kind of your other things that you might add on, like your activities. So once you think about your messaging, I like to really focus on, okay, so is this an adult event? What is if I was doing a seminar event, what's my message? What do I want people to learn, and why should they care about coming out to it? If this was a youth event or a movie, why should they come to our event versus, someone else's? So it might be that, we're showing, something nature-based, or maybe there's a fun activity that's tied in. Or if this is like a stewardship event. Why should they, come to our Earth Day event versus, all of the different other ones? So what can they have? Maybe it's their community. Maybe you want your community members to come out and give back to the park in their neighborhood. So really drawing that in. And that'll help you come up with a creative name. If you want to get a little creative and come up with something to help draw them in, that's how you would come up with your name next for your event. And remembering that if it's going to become an annual or recurring event, you want something that can carry over. So from here, you'll create your event budget and decide on what you can afford and outline if you can't afford something, then this is what we need to do so that we can, make the size event that we think is feasible. So we might need to get some sponsorships or funding through different partnerships. Maybe we need to solicit donations from local businesses, and that donations, I would encourage you to get creative. It doesn't always have to be monetary. Maybe you're asking them to donate certain items that you need for your event. A business might be really willing to donate, hot chocolate and cups for a winter event instead of donating, a few $100s. So just kind of being open to different suggestions. If you have a very large event, you can always come up with like a sponsorship packet. And this will go over kind of different funding opportunities, what they get out of it. And in return, you'll get the funding. So kind of going through these different levels can be helpful. And the same can be true even without a packet. When I go to a business and I ask them for a donation, I'll really talk to them about what they might get out of it. We'll market for them. We'll put them on our social media. Maybe we'll put them on our website. We'll put them on a banner for the event. Or a really popular one is to let them have a table at your event, because then they can have that public contact. And it really is pretty simple for you to let them have that space. So if you want to know more about the membership or fundraising, you can come to that talk coming up on February 22nd. And we could talk about sponsorship and fundraising all night. So if you have specific questions though on this, you're welcome to reach out to me. Otherwise, this next one on the 22nd of February should be really helpful as well. All right, so promoting your event, we'll wait to go over. I won't go through that too much, except for I always recommend having a variety of different platforms that you're promoting it on. So creating flyers and taking it to local businesses is really helpful. Making sure to do this far in advance, not the week before your event if you can help it, unless it's really like a spur of the moment excitement event. Trying to get that out as far in advance, but not too far. It's like a gentle balance to promote it. So depending on the size you're looking for, 4 weeks is usually good for some smaller events. If you have a really large event, you want to get it out at least, maybe 2 months ahead of time, and then really start promoting it more close to the event, which I'm sure Susan will talk about a little bit as well. And then we just want to remind you to not announce, advertise, or promote your event until you have your approved special event permit, because if there was another event at the park that day that maybe you didn't know about, we would hate to have your date out there and then having to kind of pull back on your advertising. So make sure that you get that stamped and approved, and then you can feel free to promote away for your successful event. And then you launch and run your event, making sure that you have your day of contact, someone that's going to be out there as the point of contact for all of your event attendees. And if you have different partners or vendors coming in, getting them situated, set up, and guiding them to get their stations set up, or if they have different materials they're bringing, helping them unload and directing them. Also making sure you have your basics covered with traffic control, and public safety, having different notified your different communities for public safety, or if we needed to notify, the different community groups that might be affected. If you have a neighborhood or something, you'd want to invite them to your event if it's quite large, and just kind of going through that. Along with that, you would want to collect feedback, especially from your volunteers that are out at your event. So you might not always have an opportunity to collect feedback from your attendees, but you definitely could collect feedback from your volunteers just to see how things went and debrief it, and make sure that everyone feels satisfied with how it ran or what could be improved for the next time that you have one. And that was a really quick intro of event planning. Obviously, there is a lot more that goes into it, but we have a lot of information we want to provide you with tonight and go through some questions later. So at that, I will turn it over.
All right, so again, I'm Jolene, the interim director here with Dane County Parks, and part of my role with Dane County is to approve all of the special event permit requests that come in, both for our friends groups and for the general public. So if I'm just a member of the public and I want to have a family reunion at a park, pretty standard, not a special event, I just rent a shelter. If I want to have a wedding, a larger group, I want to sell something, then as the general public, I have to get a special event permit. For our friends groups, regular restoration type work days with less than 50 people that doesn't use a facility like a park shelter, those certainly do not need a special event permit. There are so many of you that are doing those restoration work days in our parks on a really regular basis and really aren't using any of those facilities, and we don't need to have those on our special event calendar. But it doesn't really hurt to get one either, because when we do have an event that's on our special event calendar, a ranger or a park attendant, which are our summer seasonal staff, they likely stop by and say hi. You'll get to build that relationship with the ranger and the people that are working within that park, or what we refer to as a work unit. You generally will get some extra trash removal services, friendly faces, maybe even they'll pick up a tool for a little bit depending on what their schedule allows. So if you choose to submit one, just know you'll probably get that extra point of contact. We do, however, ask all friends groups to submit a special event permit request for their larger special events. Things like runs, anything that's going to be using a park shelter. If you're going to have merchandise sales, or have alcohol present, those types of things do require additional permits. Even if you aren't going to have those permits, it's through our special event permit process that we can reserve that shelter for you at no charge. So fees are typically waived for our friends groups. We do have a policy on waiving fees on our events rules and information webpage if you want to learn more about the specifics. But fees are waived for all of our friends group events as long as at least 50% of the event proceeds go directly to that friends group or directly to Dane County Parks for special events that are being organized by other organizations that aren't a park specific friends group. So as an example, a friends group hosts a run and 100% of that revenue generated goes back to the friends group. That's really easy to say, yep, those fees are approved. If a partner organization hosts an event and donates 50% of their gross revenue from that event back to Dane County Parks, we would waive those fees too. An example of an event that would not qualify, if one of our park friends groups hosts a fundraising event with 3 other nonprofits that are not associated with Dane County Parks, and they all split the revenue. So 25% of that revenue stays with your friends group, but the other 3 events, or the other 3 nonprofits, keep 25% too. That would not qualify for a fee waiver. That doesn't happen very much. For most of you that are here as a volunteer in the park or as one of our 20 friends groups, we waive your fees every single time because you do such amazing work in the park, and all that revenue you generate goes right back to the park. So we clearly aren't going to charge you a fee for that. Once it's approved, we make sure that it's on our event calendar for our rangers and our field staff. Like I said, we'll also make sure that it looks nice when you come. So the garbage cans are emptied right before the event. It's ready to go. We won't have the mowers on site during your event if it's on the calendar. So our operations staff looks pretty closely at the special event calendar on a weekly basis, so that we know what's happening in our parks, and it's great if your events get included on that calendar. And the slide isn't going. There it goes. All right. So in the past, friends groups used a PDF special event request for form. Many of you probably filled that form out for a number of years. Dane County Parks got a new reservation system a little over a year ago. So it's reservedane.com, which integrated our special event permit request process for both public and private special events into the reservation system. It's easier on our side, I'll say, because with the special event request, then we get to reserve the shelters and the other park facilities that go with it. But I'll be honest, I do get a lot of questions since we implemented this new reservation software only a year ago. We had a lot of questions from groups this year learning how to use this permit system for the first time. And so I thought it would be prudent for us to go through today and walk through what this looks like exactly on our reservation system. So if you can see, I just opened the website. This is reservedane.com, which redirects you directly to this really long URL, which is why it doesn't look like that right now. But when you type in reservedane.com, this is where you'll go. I have already logged in just to make today's presentation a little bit easier. If you haven't created an account yet, you'll have to create an account. Otherwise, you can log in to your existing account right when you get on this website. And if you don't log in now, it will prompt you to do it throughout the process anyway. So I'm going to scroll down here to the third bar, shelter and special events, and there's the special event request button. So I'll click that one. And scroll down again, it says submit a request, this green button with the check mark on it. You'll need to click on that. You'll use a calendar here on the left to pick the date that you need. Could be this one, maybe I want to go lower through February. You have to click. Many of us don't have events in February, so you have to click down on the next month to be bringing that month up to the center, which it doesn't seem intuitive. So that is a question that I get quite a bit. So let's say that I'm going to create an event on this June 25th, which is probably a pretty popular event day. It's gorgeous in June in Wisconsin. So I'm going to click the date that I want. I see it show up here. Then I'm going to click on this time slot, make it dark blue, which is now what gets us an add to cart button on the side. This is the desktop view. If you're going to do this on your phone, see if I can get this to work. Susan, you might need to help me. Thank you. So if you're working on your phone, it does look different. And even an iPad, depending on how it's set, is going to do that. I'm going to try to go back to the process here so you can see it is certainly different. So I'm going to do the same, submit a request. Now I'm going to pretend like this is my finger, even though I'm using a mouse, and press, hold, slide like you would, just like you do on your phone for everything. So you can move the months back and forth with your finger if you're using a touch screen phone or iPad. Pick a date. Maybe I'm going to do a weekday event for this one. Same thing. The date has to turn dark blue, but now there is not an add to cart button here. There's this calendar in the corner, which is basically your cart. So at this point, I've got the first date that I selected showing you using the computer, and then the second date I selected showing you using the mobile version. Let's say maybe I have two events that have the same answers. I could do that, or you can, doesn't look like it, but you can click here and you can remove a date. So this is the date of my event. This is what I want to add to my cart. The first question that it's going to prompt me is a head count. So I'm going to have 100 people at this event. I can continue to do this in the phone. I think just for the sake of our display, I'm going to bring it back bigger. I don't have to see Susan's giant view of Susan's desktop in the background. It's going to auto-populate me as a primary contact just because this is my account and I don't have any other family members associated with it. So that's pretty easy. And then this is where it's going to get into the meat and potatoes part of the event. So am I a Dane County Parks Friends group? Well, yes, I am. And today I'm going to pretend that, I'm associated with really any number of these, but I'm going to pick Schumacher just because I know we've got a couple of people from Schumacher on today. And I'm going to pick my park, which is Schumacher Farm. The areas of the park to be used will be the farmhouse and Center for Rural Heritage. I'm just going to do center quickly so I can keep going, and the trails. My special event permit or purpose, many times this is going to be other. This question is really is designed to hit more of the public events. Maybe it'll be a run walk, but otherwise, if it's a friends group educational event or just community gathering, you're going to pick other. Event title is going to be farm demos, and I have a description of all the really wonderful things that I'm doing at the event, what time we're going to start. I'm just going to answer all of these questions so that you can continue to see the process and make a bunch of this stuff up as I go along. We're start at 11 in the morning and we're going to work to 5:45 at night. If your event is more than one date, you can also type in an end date here, or if you're having, workshops every Tuesday evening for 6 weeks, this is free forming, so you can type whatever you want in here. I'm the on-site contact, and this is my phone number. Generally, there's probably not alcohol at your events. There may be sound. Am I going to be bringing in extra portable toilets for those facilities that have plumbing on a septic system? Depending on how many, which many of our parks do, most of our parks do, depending on how many people are coming, our septic tanks can't hold, have an event with 1,000 people that are going to be there all day long. So if once me as the approver gets your special event permit request, if I see you're expecting 1,000 people, I might talk to you about portable restrooms, whether or not you answer this question, yes or no. This tent question, so will any structure be erected? This is for a larger tent or something that requires stakes that are longer than 6 inches going into the ground. So if you're going to use a whole bunch of pop-up tents, this answer is no. If you're going to put in a bouncy house with stakes, or you're going to have a bigger tent brought in from a tent rental company, or use our bigger tent, then the answer to that is yes. And the reason behind that is because our park staff will go and mark all of our underground utilities. So electric running from a box into a shelter, as an example, the water line into the building, or from the well, or the septic coming back out, so that the tent does not hit any of our utilities mistakenly. A number of additional picnic tables. This is an option that public events get to pay for. Friends groups, as long as you meet that fee waiver, you don't have to pay for extra picnic tables to get brought in if you're having a picnic or things like that. We do loads of 6 because that's how many fit on a trailer. Will additional grass parking be needed for a lot of our larger special events? The answer to that question is yes. Will your event be catered? Generally, it's not. But again, your event's best, and so it's event specific. Will food, beverages, or merchandise be sold? Can be yes. If it's a public event and you're charging a fee, $5 for everyone to come, just put it in there. If it's a public event, once it's approved, Susan will talk about some other ways we can promote it here, but there's a sneak peek there. Will EMS be needed during your event? For some of those larger trail runs, we might recommend it. So you can start with no, but that could be something that I would reach out to you later. Will law enforcement or security be needed? In the year I've been with Dane County Parks, that has been no. You can type in any additional information here, and we have some resources that you can request. This is where you'll put it, and I'll talk more about those resources in a second. So then I'm going to sign this waiver that just says I'm going to follow that if I need an alcohol permit, I'm gonna get one, and I'll follow current public health guidelines for gathering restrictions, which we haven't had for quite a while now. So probably change that waiver. I don't think they're gonna come back. So now I see my special event permit for this date and time. They all say this location to be determined. That's just part of the approval process. It's sitting in my cart. And it's got a $0 fee charged to it. So if I was a public person just doing this because I wanted to have my wedding in a park as an example, we don't charge a fee right now because we want, the fees will get assessed once we see what all of the answers are based on the event needs. And so for the friends groups, we've got no fee here, which is great because then I'm not reserving a shelter for you, or you're not reserving a shelter yourself, and then I'm refunding your credit card. So that's one of the reasons why this is set in 0. Maybe I want to continue shopping and do another one because I'm putting in multiple events for my organization for the year, or I could just proceed to the checkout and continue. And so I've got my online transaction is complete. They sent an email to me. I'm logged in as my personal account right now, so that's my personal email. Let's say I am, the admin person for this friends group, but I want the friends group president to know that I submitted it, so I could type in their email address here, and they could get a copy of the receipt as well. And receipt is really just what the request. It has all of the answers to all of those questions that you just answered. So that's what that looks like. And you can log out, or you could keep shopping. So that's what an overview of what that permit request looks like. I referred at the bottom of that long form to a spot where you can request additional resources. And so Dane County Parks offers some really great resources for our friends groups to use as they're hosting larger events and even work days. They are not available for outside organizations to use. This is specifically for our friends groups and for our volunteers. They're reserved on a first come, first served basis. Some really long-standing park events do have the trailer, we'll say, locked in for specific weekends. So as an example, an event is always held the second Saturday of September, and that friends group has been doing it for 15 years. We will hold that trailer for them, even if their event request hasn't gotten in quite yet. So to request those resources, like I said, include the details of what you want in that last question of the form. And I'll also note that these resources were made possible by the Foundations for Dane County Parks. So just like they sponsored this event today, this training today, they helped fund all of these event supplies as well. So we've got a special event trailer that our friends groups use. And I'll say this one's pretty popular if you're going to host a larger special event. It's got everything from these 10 by 10 pop-up tents, additional folding tables, drinking water, barricades and flags that you can use for parking, the safety yellow vests that your volunteers can wear while they're pointing people to park in a specific direction, and a lot of miscellaneous things that you've hosted special events before. You just need the cable ties, duct tape, random, everything last minute. So it's really an all-inclusive trailer for those larger special events. We also have a workday tool trailer. So this isn't set up for a group to use every single Saturday morning all summer long. This for your regular smaller work days. For those types of tools, we hope that you have most of them already. But when you are having a huge corporate group coming out that's bringing 100 people, and you certainly don't have enough tools to accommodate these larger groups, then this event trailer or workday tool trailer can help make sure you've got enough for the group that day. So just a wide variety of every tool you could ever possibly imagine is available in this trailer. As I was looking at the lists today to come in, or to put this, or earlier this week to put together this presentation, another staff member basically described this trailer as like your really organized grandpa's tool shed. That's what it is. We also have a large tent. It's 20 by 30. It comes in a trailer and it needs to be set up by our volunteers. So we drop it off, but you have to have the hands on site to be putting it up and taking it down. And as I mentioned earlier, we have extra picnic tables that we can bring to your events. They're delivered in loads of 6, and we can drop off extra trash and recycling receptacles as well. So most of these events are dropped off. If you have a weekend event, they're dropped off the Thursday or the Friday before by our staff. So our trucks haul the trailers out. They'll do their best to put it in a location that will work for you. I find a lot of groups will tend to have a volunteer that has a truck or a SUV that also has a trailer hitch, so that you can unload your supplies that you need and then move that trailer over to the side out of the way during the event, and then bring it back to pack everything back up in there. And then the Monday or the Tuesday following the event, Dane County Park staff comes right back on site, hooks up the trailer and hauls it back to our facility. So that's an overview of all of the special event permit process, why you need to have it, and some really amazing resources that Dane County Parks offers to our friends groups and our volunteers. At this point, I'm going to pass the presentation over to Susan to talk about social media and communications.
Unmute myself. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Sanford. I'm the strategic engagement coordinator for the department. So I do a lot of different things, including some of our equity and inclusion work, but also social media and outreach. So a lot of you are at very different points in your social media. So this is a little tricky to put together, but I wanted to provide some kind of a basic overview of different platforms, and then some tips and tricks that have come up as questions before from friends groups. So I'm definitely not doing like a super deep dive, but I don't want to go really deep in the weeds if it's not even a platform that you use. So you can always follow up with me later if you have specific questions on social media or how to work with us better to engage people. Let's see if it's going to let me click now. Yep, I have my screen back. Okay. Just going to minimize all these faces over here. All right. So there are a ton of different social media platforms. You can go crazy with social media. What I recommend is starting with one and doing it really well. So making sure that if you have one social media site, you're posting your events, you're able to, post pretty consistently, not just once every year. If you have one and you're doing it really well and you want to add another one, then you could do that and make sure that you can handle it before you expand, to 10 different social media sites. It's really better to have one that you're doing well than to be on 10 different platforms. This is a little blurry, so I apologize, but I just took this graphic so you could see kind of what the top social media sites are. You might have heard of some of these, you might not have, but Facebook is really still the most used platform. And then another really big one that you probably have heard of is Instagram. WhatsApp is kind of used throughout the world. And YouTube is obviously, I'm sure you've heard of YouTube. It's a video sharing one, but Facebook, Instagram, kind of higher toward the top. And I'm not going to dive into this, but every single platform has different benefits. So Facebook is really good for setting up events. A lot of people use it to communicate with friends and family or get news. Instagram is really video friendly. People use it more for entertaining content, images, following different brands. And then some of these others I'm not going to go into, but LinkedIn, you know, is more professional. Twitter is short, quick, a lot of news. So you can think about what your goals are and then pick a social media platform that you think is going to reach the audience you want to reach and have the features that you want it to have. So for parks, we have a few other social media sites for like the Heritage Center and for our larger Land and Water Resources Department. But for specifically for Dane County Parks, we use Facebook and Instagram. Facebook we've been using for a really long time. It's the biggest used platform still by different age groups. It's really great for setting up events, especially events with multiple organizations. And I'm going to show you how to do that just because Facebook always is updating what their site looks like. And they changed that not too long ago and people are having trouble finding how to add different co-hosts. So we're going to look at that, but it reaches a broad audience. We also added Instagram a couple of years ago. It's very image friendly. So Instagram is mostly images, and I'm going to give you kind of a little overview of both of these, but it reaches more teens and youth. You have a lot more organic engagement. So Facebook, I can't remember the exact statistic. I should have looked it up, but even if someone is following your page, so if someone likes and follows like the Friends of Donald Park, when you post something, it's only showing that post to a really, really small percentage of your followers because Facebook is a free site. And in order for them to make revenue, they want you to boost your posts to show them to your followers, as well as maybe new people that aren't on your page. Instagram still has a pretty organic engagement. So the people that follow you are more likely to see what you're posting without you paying to boost it. What I love about it is it's really visual, especially for an organization like Parks, where you might have beautiful fall foliage or blooming prairies or happy kids romping through the fields on an owl walk. You can really highlight the features of your park with it because it's so visual. You can also use hashtags, which I'm going to talk about. And you can also reshare other people's pictures. So I love it because people can tag us when they're at Indian Lake, and I can reshare it really easily without having to go out and get a picture of Indian Lake. And it just helps people see more park properties that they might want to visit, which is nice. I don't really want to go too deep into this, but just a little look at who these different sites are reaching. So Facebook, I mentioned, it's still the biggest one. It's reaching, it has about 2.7 billion active users in a month. The biggest age group is 25 to 35. It does reach a younger crowd, which I actually didn't think it really did anymore when I was putting this presentation together, but I was looking at some social reports and it said younger people are still using it. It's not their #1 platform, however. And it also is seeing an influx of baby boomers. So the older generation, if they're going to be on social media, a lot of times it's Facebook. And then Instagram, slightly less, 1 billion active users a month, 25 to 35, again, for that largest age group. It's the second largest network after Facebook, and they also, Facebook owns Instagram, so they share an ad platform, which is nice if you have both accounts and you're running, let's say you have a really big event coming up, like a big trail run, and you really want to advertise it, you can run an ad on Facebook and also select it to also run on your Instagram account. So just for time savings and convenience, it's nice that they share an ad platform. It does reach that teen audience, like I said, although Snapchat and TikTok are their top sites, neither of which I am on, so I can't tell you much about those. It's also really visual, which I mentioned, and I'll show you a little image of what Instagram looks like if you're not familiar. And then it's easy to tag and share. The downside is that you can't include hyperlinks like you could on Facebook. You could type something up and then say, see our website with a little hyperlink. You can't do that in an Instagram post, but I'm going to show you a little workaround. Some quick social media tips and tricks for Facebook. Have more than one admin on your page. I've seen a lot of, especially smaller nonprofit groups where you have kind of one person in charge of social media. They only have one admin, and what happens is if for some reason that person's account gets hacked or something in Facebook glitches and they lose access, they're the only ones that have access. And I've seen groups have to set up brand new pages, which is not fun. And it's frustrating because you can't contact Facebook in any useful way. We've tried. So have more than one admin, even if that person's not posting, just have someone else from your board or a couple of other people from your board be an admin as a backup. Have some guidelines and standards. This is especially important if you do have more than one poster, more than one person posting. RIA sent something out a year or two ago. We shared kind of some of the guidelines and standards that we use for our department. We made a Friends version and she sent that out. That was a couple of years ago though. So I think on a follow-up email tomorrow with this PowerPoint, we're also going to include those in case you need a copy. You can modify them as much as or as little as you want. It's kind of, what's the voice of our page? What are we going to allow versus not allow? Who's managing it? Things like that. So standards that you're all following. So even if you have more than one person posting, it sounds like it's coming from a collective group. Try and use a diversity of images. So one of the goals for Dane County Parks has been trying to use more images that reflect the diversity of our park users. So in terms of age or ability or body type or cultural background, just trying to make it so the things that we're posting, if someone's looking at our page, they can see themselves in those posts and think, okay, I could go do that. I'm not going to say we're totally there yet. Our photo resources are limited. So we've been trying to build our photo library so that we have more access to images that do reflect that. So we are still working on that. I'm sure a lot of you are too. And I'll show you a resource that we have that's new that might help you. Fact check any information before you share it. So make sure what you're sharing is true and accurate. And then if you're having anyone that's confrontational or that's asking about projects that you might not know the answer to, please refer them to us. So you don't have to be the ones that are dealing with those issues. Don't get involved in debates back and forth. Just tell them, it's better if you talk to park staff about this specific issue and refer them to our email. And then crafting a good post. So this is kind of a topic about messaging. This could apply to anything. It could apply to social media posts, or if you're making a newsletter or you're doing a presentation. This is just some basic tips. So you want to keep it short and hit your main points. A lot of us in the science field, if you're in the science field, we're trained to kind of talk about our thing and then add all the caveats about why it might not be true, and then add all these other detail, especially for like research projects. And that's not that great in terms of a messaging standpoint. People get confused, they gloss over, they stop listening. So keep it short, hit your main points, think about who your audience is. Lael kind of talked about this in terms of sponsors, but it applies to events as well. Are you trying to reach a local business who you're trying to get them to come out for an event or sponsor something? Are you targeting an older crowd? Is it a kids event? So think about who your audience is, and then what are the main things you want them to take away in that post or that newsletter article or whatever it is that you're writing about. So just hit those main points and then kind of stop yourself. And a good tip, a good rule of thumb is think about who, what, where, when, how. Make sure they have that information. Don't add all the extra information that's going to make them stop reading your post and keep scrolling. People are very limited in their attention spans these days. And then keep it professional. You're posting on behalf of, if you're here representing a friends group or another environmental organization in the county, you're representing that group. So keep it professional in terms of language that you're using and what you're saying and how you're posting. Post it as the organization. Don't type it out and then sign your name, because people don't necessarily know who's in your friends group. So you don't need to do that. And then also don't post it to your personal page and then share it to your group page. You want to post as the group, because that's who you are. That's your voice. If you have like an internal Facebook group where it's just your organization, that's different. I'm talking about like a public page. And then I just wanted to look at setting up a Facebook event. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on this because I'm not sure if you're all using Facebook, but it's confusing because they change it so often. Let's see if I can do it. If not, I'll just open Facebook. So on my page, I'm set to the organization. On Facebook, you can toggle back and forth between yourself and your organization, which is something I've heard groups had some confusion about before. So they'll be on their own little picture and they'll try and post, and it either won't let them or it'll go to like a community section. It's not showing up on their main page. So you want to be your organization. If you go to events, create a new event. I'm going to do an online one. Oh, these are new questions. This has never asked me that before. So they're updating things daily. So you have the title of your event. You want something, you don't want it to be too long because it's on social media, but maybe it's like a, let's see. I'm going to copy what Shoemaker Farm. Halloween on the farm. You could do at Schumacher right in the title, or just leave it simple. And then it's going to ask you for your days. I'm going to go through this really quickly. I don't really care what the time is. Add an ending time. You can make it recurring if you have a restoration event every Friday. You can add your location. I know I'm adding, it's a Schumacher event at the Heritage Center. Don't pay attention to that. And then you want to do your description. And this is another time to really think about that who, what, where, when, why. I've seen, not necessarily with park friends groups, but just nonprofits that sometimes set up events. They have really limited time. And so they set them up quickly. And sometimes it's just a 2-line description. Doesn't make it sound that exciting. Doesn't really have information about like what age it's for or the fee or parking. So think about what people are gonna need to know. Have a kind of exciting description of, is there a photo booth? Is there face painting? Something that makes them know why they wanna come. And then make sure you're touching all the information they need to know. Is there a registration link? Is there a fee? What should they do for parking? Anything that they might need to know. You can select a category. Most of these I don't think really fit that well in terms of parks, so I always just select something random. Let's see, it's probably going to make me write something here. Test. See, this is a different. Oh, it's probably because I didn't select in person. That's why I'm getting these questions. All right, well, I'll make a event link, www. Never set up a virtual event on here, so this is new. I'm learning. You can add your photo of your event, something that makes people want to go. It's exciting. It has either happy people, or you can design a little image. And I'm going to show you a tool at the end of this presentation that's really good for design. And then event settings is now where the co-hosts are. So it's a little buried. So if you want to add a co-host, so I'm posting this as Dane County Park, so I'm already a host, but let's say I wanted to invite the Lucier Family Heritage Center, and then maybe who's another partner organization? Let's see, I'm drawing a blank. Friends of Donald. I mean, you could add, if you have someone sponsoring it, you could add that. If you have a food cart that's coming, you could add that. And what that does is it allows you all to share the same event. So once you add them as co-hosts, they're going to get a request that they can accept, and then it will add it to their Facebook calendar. And the benefit of that, instead of you each setting up your own event, is that if something changes, like you're adding some additional information, you had a couple of organizations sign on to do a booth or a fun activity, you just have to update this one event and it updates on everyone's calendar. or if it's canceled because of rain, you just have to update this one. It also gets that one event a much broader reach because you're showing up on a lot of different people's calendars and they can easily share that event on their page. So I'm not going to save this, or Friends of Donald's going to be really confused about why they're getting this event, but that's how you do it. You'll notice it's pending. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So Facebook used to send you a notification when someone added you as a co-host. And in my experience, that seems to have stopped. And I think other people I've talked to stopped getting a notification. So in your Facebook notifications, it doesn't say anymore, Friends of Schumacher sent you a co-host request. So what I do is every week I just check this events tab, which you might not have to do that because you're not getting people inviting you to be co-hosts as much as we do as parks with all of the different friends groups. But I just kind of remind myself, go to events, approve them every week so they show up on our calendar. So you can see a bunch here. Schumacher just added a ton of events, so I took a screenshot. Thanks for doing that. It was useful for my presentation. So that's all I'm going to talk about with Facebook. If you're having issues with something, I'm happy to talk to you on the phone or just talk about how we could better collaborate on events. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I don't know if I'm talking about this later, is if you have an event, no, I think I do talk about this later. Ignore me, it's end of the day, I'm tired. So then I'm gonna give just a really quick overview of Instagram. There are only, I think 2 friends groups that are really active on Instagram, and there are 2 more that I think haven't had posts in a couple of years, so they must have lost their volunteer Instagram poster. But I wanted to let you know what it is. It's my favorite social media site, especially for parks, because they're so visual. So there's a couple of different things you can do on Instagram. There's a post section where you can post a picture and a little description. So this one was about snowshoeing. Once it snowed, we wanted to remind people that we have a new snowshoe page with some trail maps on it. So you can't see the description right now because I just took a screenshot. This isn't my actual phone, but if someone is looking on their news feed, they would see a picture and a little description. Those stay up, they're permanent, they're forever unless you delete them. Instagram also has stories, which took me a really long time to learn and figure out the next 2 things I'm talking about. So I just wanted to let you know what they are so you don't have to struggle. Stories disappear after 24 hours. So they're more temporary things. Maybe you have a trail closure and you don't really want it permanently on your feed, but you just want people to get a little notice that something's closed, or sometimes your followers will tag you in a really nice picture of your park. You can share that to your story, and I'll show you in a minute what that looks like. And then there's also a highlight reel. So if you don't want those stories to disappear, you can save them in a highlight reel. So an example of how I do that is if people tag us in a really nice picture of a park, I save it to our stories, and then I try and save one example of each park in this little parks highlight reel. So if you watch it, you'll see a quick, it's kind of like 5 or 10-second clip of a picture, and it'll go through, and I think I have like 30 different pictures of our park system, just to help people maybe find a new place they want to explore. And then some people have posted little videos walking along a trail in a park. Those are really neat, and we don't really have the capacity to make them because of staff limitations. So I save other people's little videos in that highlight reel of park tours. So those are kind of the 3 main areas of Instagram. The downside I mentioned to Instagram is this, my little bar is blocking it here, but I don't think it's blocking it for you. You can see there's a URL there, is you can't click on a URL. So this is an example of what an Instagram post looks like. There's a picture and some descriptive text. And if you post a URL, it's not like Facebook where you can click on it and it takes you to a website. So someone would have to actively look at that, type it into their computer at home. Most people aren't going to remember that they saw it or remember to type it in later. So you might lose some people that way. What you can do is say link in bio. So if I go back, I can see my bio has this link in it. It gives you 1 space to put a URL. So what I used to do was just swap out that URL. If I had a snowshoe post, I would put our snowshoe page. That's a lot of work, and it also loses whatever link was in a previous post. So what we started doing is a link tree, which is a pretty common platform. There's some other platforms people use, but it just takes you to one site that has a place where you can add different links. They're really easy to update. I can turn them on and off. So I could turn off winter recreation in the spring and then turn it back on next winter. I can reorganize them. So that's just nice. You can do a post, you can say, click on the link in the bio, and then people click on it and they get these options to choose from. If you use Instagram, that's a good tip. What I really like about it is that people can tag us. So if they post a photo, they can tag at Dane County Parks, and it will show up in this little section of our Instagram. These are all of the things we're tagged in. They can also use hashtags. And I'm not going to go too deep into hashtags, but I didn't understand hashtags for a really long time. But when they post a picture, I'm just going to go back to my little post. At the end of this, they could put a bunch of hashtags like hashtag Dane County Parks, hashtag Token Creek County Park, hashtag snowshoeing. And people on Instagram can follow different hashtags. So for example, I follow hashtag Dane County Dog Parks, hashtag Schumacher Farm County Park, hashtag Lucia Family Heritage. I follow all these hashtags so I can see when people are posting images of those. And if they do that, then I can also reshare them to our story. So anything people directly tag us in is a little easier to find, but they can also use those hashtags, which I can see because I follow them, and I can reshare those as well. And this is what it looks like. This is an example of our story. You can see each of these little lines is a different little post to our story. And those are the ones that disappear after 24 hours. But this is an example of someone in the public posted and tagged us. This is their name right here. And I was able to really easily reshare that. And I added a little location so that people could see that and go, oh, that's beautiful. I've never been to Donald. I want to go visit that park. And often in a day, there'll be quite a few because we get quite a few people tagging us. And what's nice is the professional photographers really like that you're sharing their page because it gets more attention to their site. So they go out to our parks and take these beautiful pictures, and then I can post those because they're used to tagging us now. It also, if people are doing that, you can reach out to them and ask them if you can use those photos for promoting the park. If you give them a photo credit. I don't think I've had anyone turn me down when I've reached out. I've had people not respond, but the ones that do respond are almost always, yes, we love that park. You can use it. Just here's the credit to use. So it gives us some really nice images of the park without us having to go out and take them or pay a professional photographer to do that. So that was a really quick overview. Now the next two sections are pretty short. So we're almost through, and I want to power through these so we have plenty of time for questions. So just a few ways that parks can help you promote your event. Most of these are linked to that resources page that we mentioned. And we're going to send that out in the follow-up email as well. You can add us as a Facebook event co-host, which is what we looked at together. If you're here not with the Parks Friends group, if you're like a watershed group, we also have a land and water resources department page. If you're doing a water related event that's not necessarily in a park, you could add our department as a co-host. If it's in a park, you can add parks as a co-host. Tagging us, if you do use Instagram, tagging us, like if you're having an event at your park, tag us, and then we can reshare that on our platform. We're slowly working to build up followers so those posts have a bigger reach. And then also add your events to our Dane County Parks website, and a link to that submission form is on that resources page. And then that's where we're pulling content so we send out a newsletter every 2 weeks, and we try and highlight some of the bigger events that are going on or a list of volunteer opportunities. We pull those from our Facebook calendar when people add us as a co-host and from the website. So we're going to do our best to get the word out about your events. Some different promotion ideas. These are 3 calendars I know about in the local area. If you have other resources, let me know. But Madison Minutes Isthmus is for free events only. So if you have a paid event, they won't post it. 608 Today is one I just ran across the other day, advertising events in the 608 area code. Running an ad on social media. So like I mentioned, if you have a Facebook post, your followers, let's say you have 1,000 followers on your Facebook page, it's only showing that post to a really small percentage of those. So if they're scrolling through their news feed, only I don't remember, don't quote me on the percentage, but it's something like only 11% of the people that follow you will see that in their news feed unless you boost it as an ad. So if you're just doing, you know, a night hike and you only want 20 people, you probably shouldn't run an ad. But if you're trying to do a huge run or like a huge, you know, at the park family event, I would recommend running an ad, even if it's just like $10. You can do targeting when you run an ad, so you can select the area that you want the ad to be shown to. So I usually do Madison in like a 20-mile radius. You can select characteristics like people that like fishing or people that like hiking or people with kids. You can get pretty detailed. So for example, for the Heritage Center, we ran some wedding ads and we targeted it to people that had recently listed themselves as engaged. So you can get really into the details with the targeting. And then also actively post in your Facebook event. So again, if you're just having a small like restoration day, you don't have to be super active in your Facebook event, but if you're doing something big, like for example, we did a really big Barks for Parks event. You don't want to just set it up and then forget it's there and not engage people. The more you engage in the Facebook event, the more people are going to share those posts. You get more people to the event and you build up the excitement. So if you're having a food cart, you can ask the food cart for a PR picture from some other event that they've done, and you can post like, oh, just in, you know, sandwiches, yummy sandwich food cart is going to be at the event. Or if you're having different booths there, you could kind of highlight those. Or for Barks for Parks, which was our big Dane County Dog Park fundraiser, we highlighted adoptable dogs that would be there. And then people see those different posts and some of them will get them really excited and will share their friends or tag their friends. And you get more people. So try and if it's a bigger event and you have capacity, try and do some posts in your Facebook event. It'll be more effective that way. And then video content is a really popular way for people to engage in social media. So if you have someone that's video savvy, all you need is really a smartphone because the cameras are really good on them these days. You could do like a little quick 2-minute overview of some historical feature of the park or a little trail tour or something like that. Those are, you know, this is where our night hike is going to be in 2 weeks. Kind of a little promo preview videos are popular. And then if you're hosting a big event and Parks is, you know, one of your sponsors on that event, we can do something like a joint press release. So we had a lot of trail runs coming up last year, and we did a press release highlighting our run that we were sponsoring or we were hosting, as well as some of the friends trail runs. So we could do a joint press release and get it out in the media a little bit more. All right, I'm going to go quick. Signage and design. On that Friends resource page, we tried to put some design tips. I really recommend this book, and I have an older copy of it, which I don't know what I did with. But it's the Non-Designer's Design book it's not the Robin Williams you're thinking of, it's a different Robin Williams, but it's got really good visual examples of, you know, here's this kind of blah poster and here's how you can improve it based on different visual elements of the page. I really recommend it. We also tried to pull out some of those best practices and put it in a PDF, and it's available on the Friends research page under the signage tab. And then we are going to have a whole session on signage and interpretive signage and design, which is not quite nailed down the date yet, but check back on our Friends resource page because we will list that as soon as we have it. And that will be with a professional graphic designer. And then I don't think we have time for this, but Canva is a free online tool that we've been using for our parks newsletters. We use it to make some social media graphic posts. I just want to show you, let me exit. The zoo used it to make like a training for their volunteers. And it's really nice because, let me just skip ahead. You can do these little videos. So sometimes videos. So if you have something that you're all the time, training video, share it with them. You could also use it for something like that sponsor packet that Lael talked about. I'm just gonna open it really quick. I was gonna kind of show you different features, but I don't think we have time for that. But you can do, let's say I want to do an Instagram post. And I'm just gonna show you this one. See, I want something naturey, hiking. There's all these really nice templates. Some of them require a pro account, but there are quite a few features that are free. I was using it for about a year for the Parks newsletter with just the free account. And then we had a lot of staff that were using it. So we ended up upgrading to a pro account. A lot of these are pro ones. So this might not be helpful, but you can go in and edit it. There are really nice designs. So it's just great if you want to upgrade a little from your Microsoft Word poster that you might be making and have something that looks a little bit more professional. And then you could have a template that you use over and over again for your different events. So that's all the detail I'm going to go into, but I encourage you to check it out. You can sign up for a free account. A lot of great clip art videos, photo resources, things like that. Okay, that's all I'm going to say with that. With a paid account, you can also create a brand kit. So you can upload like your logos and pick the colors you want to use. And then every time you make something, you can kind of come back to that. And it just kind of ties everything together. So if you end up using it a ton, the pro account's not that expensive and it might be worth it. And then I want to show you this. This is we have a staff person that is an amazing photographer, and he used Flickr for a previous job, and he started a Flickr page for us. I will say we're still in the very initial stages of populating it. And some of the tags are a little funky right now, but this could be a resource for you as well as our own staff. So you can organize stuff in albums. There's also a photo stream. So again, the tags are a little funky. So this probably isn't going to be, let me do dog. I need a picture of a dog park. We'll see how good the tags are. So it comes up, you can find, or you could search by your own park name and see what we have. These are available for you to use. Some of them have a photographer credit here that you would have to use, but you could use them to help promote your park as long as you're giving the photographer credit. So we're hoping to continue populating that and make it a really nice image library that friends groups could use as well. And I think this is my last slide. Oops, I lost my button, but there it goes. Okay. I wish I hadn't taken that long because it's 6:20, but now we have time for questions. So if you want to ask a question, you could either throw it in the chat or you can raise your